Hello, welcome to the channel Wise Stories. Enjoy watching.
Lola and her best friend Maria were wandering through the clothing stalls at a sale on the market, trying to find a dress. Lola went to try on another outfit and came out of the fitting room disappointed a minute later. "Look at this, Maria. It's terrible. Just look at the cheap fabric, it's practically see-through, it doesn't fit properly, and it looks awful. How am I supposed to wear this to my son's wedding? And in an expensive restaurant, no less?" Maria skeptically inspected the dress. "You're right, it's completely unsuitable. It's such a shame that money is tight. You're still young, Lola, and your figure is amazing. It would be great if we could go to a designer store right now. They would definitely find you a stunning dress. Take off this nightmare, let's get out of here." Lola changed into jeans and a t-shirt, and they headed home. She was feeling devastated. Only a week left until the wedding. And I have nothing to wear, not even a decent outfit. I spent all my money on my son's suit. It was expensive and stylish. He looks so good in it. And the in-laws are demanding that I contribute my share for the wedding. They expect a lot of money. And we need to give something to the couple as a gift. My head is spinning. Did we really have to book such an expensive restaurant? We could have celebrated the wedding more modestly. What am I supposed to do? I'm already torn between working at the car wash and taking on odd jobs, but money is still tight. Suddenly, Maria said, "There's only one solution, take out a loan. Then you can pay it back gradually. I would help, but you know, I have a husband, a sick mother-in-law, and 2 kids, and everything is on my shoulders." Lola's spirits lifted. "You're absolutely right. You're brilliant, Maria. I don't know why I didn't think of it before. I'll go and do that right now. Well, bye for now. We'll talk later." The woman went to the bank. The security guard at the entrance gave her a critical look. He could tell that she was below average in terms of living standards. Lola, wearing her worn-out jeans, cheap moccasins, and a plain t-shirt from the same sale, presented herself with her documents. Although she still looked fairly attractive and charming. Lola asked the security guard seriously, "Good afternoon. Can you please tell me where the loan department is in this bank? I want to apply for a loan here." The security guard pointed her in the right direction and helped her get a ticket to see a bank employee. Lola presented her documents, explained where she worked, and stated the amount she needed. She explained that her son was getting married and she urgently needed the money. She promised to repay it all. However, disappointment awaited her. They denied her loan. The woman tried to explain. "You have to understand, your income is minimal and you're asking for a huge amount. The monthly payment alone would be almost equal to your official salary. How are you going to live? Obviously, there will be late payments, and then the debt collectors will come after you. I cannot approve such a large loan for you. I'm sorry. If you want, you can try talking directly to our director. Explain the whole situation to him. Sometimes, in exceptional cases, he gives the green light. You need to go down the corridor, and the 3rd door on the left is his office." Lola was deeply upset and barely holding back tears as she walked dejectedly towards the office. The secretary took her documents and asked her to wait. After a couple of minutes, a pleasant middle-aged man rushed out of the office, looking shocked, and stared at Lola with wide eyes. He almost shouted, "Is it really you? It's like looking at a mirror image, only the name and surname are different. Come in, please." Lola didn't understand anything, entered the office, and sat down. The director started to explain everything. "When I saw your photo in the passport, I couldn't believe my eyes. It's an exact replica of a woman who rented a safety deposit box in our bank 3 years ago and opened a substantial deposit account, but then disappeared. She never showed up. All her belongings are still there, and the interest has accumulated to a huge amount. Maybe she's your sister or relative. The name Montero sounds familiar to you?" Lola shook her head. No, not at all. And I don't have any relatives. I live with my adult son. My mother passed away a long time ago. So I really don't know who it could be. Maybe you made a mistake? It happens. So what about my loan? Will you approve it for me? I really need the money right now. I promise to repay it on time, down to the last penny. The director frowned. Unfortunately, Senora Delgado, no, I'm sorry. The amount you're asking for is too large. It will be beyond your means to repay. But I can give you the contact information of that woman. Trust me, you two are identical. There can't be any mistake. I have an excellent visual memory, and I just compared you to the photo taken before opening any account in our bank. If it turns out that you are her close relative, she might be able to help you with the money. Taking the piece of paper with the address, Lola thanked the director weakly and became even more distraught. No money, no loan approval. How could she face her son and the wealthy in-laws? She sat on a bench, recalling her childhood and youth, remembering everything that had happened to her. Lola grew up in a small town, raised only by her mother. Her father was never around, and the little girl knew nothing about him as her mother stubbornly remained silent whenever she asked. They lived a difficult life, always scrimping and saving. Lola's mother worked as a nanny at a children's shelter. She was very kind and open-hearted, and she loved her daughter more than life itself. She wouldn't buy anything for herself, but always brought little treats for Lola. The woman tried her best to ensure that her daughter was dressed and shod no worse than the others, but it was a struggle. After all, her salary was meager. Lola loved her mother dearly, and she tried to help around the house. Also, she never wanted to disappoint her with poor grades. She did well in school. However, secretly, throughout her childhood, the girl dreamed of leaving this shabby, dirty little town far behind and moving to the capital city. That's where real life was, with its beautiful skyscrapers, plenty of jobs, unlike at home. After finishing school, Lola was all set to leave, but then her mother fell ill. She had been complaining of weakness for a long time, eating poorly, and as soon as she came home from work, she would immediately go to bed. Her temperature was always slightly elevated but constant. Finally, when her mother suddenly had a nosebleed in the kitchen, a frightened Lola called for an ambulance. They took her mother to the hospital. That was followed by a long period of examination, endless tests, and an unfavorable diagnosis. The doctor was competent and encouraged Lola, telling her not to give up, that she had to fight. Her mother started chemotherapy, but with each passing day, Lola saw how rapidly her loved one was fading away. She looked into her mother's dimming eyes and at her gaunt features, kissed her hands, and bravely smiled, trying to uplift her spirits. Then she would leave the hospital room and break down in tears from the grief. Lola knew her mother's time was running out. That's why she hardly left her side, using her connections to get strong painkillers to ease her suffering, and tried to spend as much time as possible with her mother. The treatment didn't yield any results, and 6 months later, her mother passed away. Lola was overwhelmed with unbearable pain. Grief tore her soul and body apart, and right after the funeral, she immediately left for the capital without a second thought. Being at home, where everything reminded her of her mother, was simply unbearable. The huge city overwhelmed the girl with its noise and power, streams of cars and crowds of people rushing about their business, and such beauty all around. Well, here's my dream come true. I'm bound to be lucky here, Lola thought. At first, everything indeed seemed to be falling into place perfectly. The girl managed to find a clean little room and got a job as a waitress at Entresol Cafe. The work was demanding, and Lola was constantly running around like crazy, working 14-hour shifts, getting exhausted from the unfamiliarity of it all. But she was still happy because the salary was good, the tips were generous, although they had to be shared among the staff. And she often received bonuses for successfully organized banquets or memorial services. 6 months later, Lola, as usual, was running home from work, but on that day, everything seemed to go wrong. It was raining outside, the bus broke down halfway, and to top it all off, she stumbled and sprained her ankle. She bit over in sharp pain when suddenly a car splashed her from head to toe with mud from a puddle. The girl almost cried out, "What's going on? Clearly, today is not my day." Suddenly, a luxury car reversed and stopped in front of her. A young, very handsome guy got out of the car and said, "Señorita, I'm sorry. It wasn't intentional. There was a pothole on the road, and my tire hit it." Lola tried to wipe off her light coat soaked through and muttered, "Oh well, what I can do now? The day didn't start well. The bus broke down, I sprained my ankle, and now you've drenched me from head to toe." The guy suddenly smiled. "My name is Oscar. And you look even more beautiful when you're angry and scrunch up your nose. You know what, let me give you a ride home. I'll make up for my mistake, so to speak. It's not a problem for me. Besides, you are completely soaked, and you might catch a cold." The girl looked up at him with her blue eyes and agreed. "Well, I'll take you up on that. My foot is swelling and hurting a lot. But let's make a quick stop at the pharmacy, okay? I'll buy some ointment. Oh, by the way, my name is Lola." Inside the car, it was warm and cozy, the heater was on, and Lola quickly warmed up. The guy hit the brakes near the pharmacy and said, "I'll be right back, wait here. I'll be quick." But in reality, he was gone for quite a while. Lola started to worry. But Oscar finally arrived and simply amazed the girl. The guy handed her a delicate bouquet of violets and a large cup of hot, aromatic coffee. And in the bag, there were ointments and painkillers. He smiled and said, "I apologize for keeping you waiting for so long. I just couldn't decide which bouquet to choose at the flower shop. I like these delicate violets, they resemble you. So, am I forgiven?" Lola blushed. She was very pleased with such attention and replied, "Thank you. The bouquet is simply wonderful. I really love violets. And the coffee is fantastic. I'm really grateful. How much do I owe you for the medicines?" The guy took her hand. "One date. I can't just let you go like this, Lola. You're special, not like everyone else. There's a natural charm in you. I was planning to go to a rock concert by a new band in a club next week. Would you accompany me? The guys are very creative and talented. You'll like it." Lola agreed. She was already infatuated with her new suitor, Oscar, who seemed like a wonderful prince to her. She thought about him day and night, especially since it was her first love. And so their romance began. Oscar was tender and caring, whispering such beautiful words, speaking of love and faithfulness. One day, he invited her to his home, a country mansion. The guy's parents had gone to visit friends for the weekend. Lola was amazed by the beauty and luxury. They drank champagne and walked along shady alleys, then watched a romantic comedy, and, of course, couldn't resist and indulged in passion. They fell asleep, embraced, but the awakening was harsh. Lola jumped up at the shout of an unfamiliar woman. "Son, get up immediately. What's happening? Have you started bringing home street hookers? It's a disgrace. We have a respectable home, not a brothel. Samuel, come and see what your offspring is up to. Why are you frozen at the door?" Oscar tried to reason with his mother. "Mom, please come out and stop shouting. We need to get dressed. Lola is not a street hooker. She's my fiancée. I love her, and we'll be getting married soon. Everything is fine. Stop this outrageous scandal. I'm not 17 years old, after all." Sonora Ferrer shouted. "Oh, I see, a very decent girl indeed. Barely stepping into a respectable home and spreading her legs right away. She better not be here in half an hour. Do you understand? And we'll have a personal talk with you later. You've grown up, but still a student." Lola sobbed and hurriedly dressed. She felt terribly ashamed. She had been humiliated, and the situation was undoubtedly unpleasant. Oscar called a taxi for her and comforted her as best he could. "Lola, my love, please don't cry. Calm down. It's all my fault. I didn't know that my parents would return today. They said they were going away for 2 days. I'm sorry. Mom just got carried away. I'll talk to her, explain everything. She's an emotional and impulsive person. Everything will be fine. You'll see. But Lola understood that things wouldn't be fine anymore. And that's how it turned out. Sonora Ferrer grew to hate her fiercely, especially when she found out that she was just a waitress from the province, without housing or registration. The parents began to pressure their son, causing scandals and demanding that he break up with the pauper. Son, listen, we're a respectable family, well known in the city. Prominent girls are interested in you. Why are you being so stubborn? I don't understand. I get it, it's youth, hormones at play. Have some fun with the girl and that's it. I know these crafty provincials. You'll see, she'll soon claim to be pregnant, and that's it, it's all over. We'll have to register her here. It's a well-known scheme to drain money from a rich guy. But Oscar turned out to be a tough nut to crack and didn't succumb to his parents' influence. The couple continued to see each other and love each other. That's when Sonora Ferrer tried to threaten Lola, saying that if she didn't leave her son on her own, things would only get worse for her. But even that didn't work. The girl firmly replied, "Understand, I love your son. Not because of money or greed, just because. And I want to be with him, and he wants to be with me too. Why do you hate me so much? This is our life, and please don't interfere in it." Oscar's mother hissed angrily. "Well, look, you little brat, you brought this upon yourself. If you don't want to do it the easy way, it'll be the hard way. Got it? And Oscar will be an economist in less than 5 minutes. We're respectable businessmen, and I swear, I won't let this disgraceful wedding happen. We don't need a destitute bride. You don't even have any education." True, after that wild scandal, everything quieted down for a while. The lovebirds breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that maybe their parents had come to terms with their decision. But it wasn't meant to be. One day, at the Entresol Cafe, there was a big banquet, a corporate event of a well-known organization. Lola, as usual, was serving in the hall. She skillfully moved between the tables, politely smiling at everyone and replacing plates and utensils. And then one of the guests, a rugged bearded man, began to behave completely inappropriately. He winked at Lola, tried to pinch her waist, blew her kisses, ordered songs for her, announcing it to everyone, and, most importantly, called her beloved. Lola was furious. It was terribly unpleasant for her, but the owner whispered to her, "Stay quiet. He's drunk, and he won't remember anything tomorrow. But he pays generously. Look, he's already bought half the bar, more than we ordered. I don't need a scandal here." And the very next evening, a deafening scandal awaited Lola. The wife of that same bearded man who had been hitting on her rushed into the cafe, shouting in front of everyone, calling Lola a home wrecker, and shoving photos and videos of the same banquet in her face, where her husband publicly confessed his love for Lola. The same photos and videos ended up with Oscar, and he accused his fiancée of all possible sins. "How could you? I loved you. I thought you were only mine. And it turns out you're sleeping with married men? Look at how your lover is staring at you, devouring you with his eyes. It's disgusting. My mother was right. You provincial girls don't care who you sleep with as long as you get a foothold in the capital. I don't want to know you anymore. Get out of here." Lola cried, pleaded to be heard, tried to explain that she had nothing to do with that man. But it was all in vain. To her, everything that was happening seemed like some wild delusion. A play. The owner, fearing gossip, also asked Lola to leave, even though she knew she was innocent. But the establishment's reputation was more important. And only when Sonora Ferrer approached the poor girl, she understood who was behind all of this. The woman smirked maliciously and said, "How do you like the performance, my dear? Wasn't my education in theater worth it? Are you satisfied now? Fired from work, abandoned by your fiancé. So, try to go near my son, and I'll crush you to dust." And the Hidalgo, such lovely people, they just needed money, and they helped me. Goodbye. Lola was shattered, crushed, humiliated, and disgraced. It was as if she had been thrown into a bucket of filth. She couldn't imagine how to go on and what to do. And most importantly, she loved Oscar so much, and it hurt her that he didn't even bother to find out the truth and believe those pictures. A month later, Lola was horrified to discover that she was pregnant. She took the test twice, and both times it showed positive. The girl was in shock. She didn't know what to do now. Dark thoughts crossed her mind. But a stern gray-haired doctor scolded her like a schoolgirl. "What are you thinking, dear? Do you think it's that simple? No. Firstly, you would be killing your own child with your own hands. Yes, it's already a baby, albeit a tiny one. Secondly, such an intervention often leads to infertility, inflammation, and other possible complications. Think carefully. Problems will eventually pass, but the child will be with you for life. They will be your support, the meaning of life, and your pillar. But the decision is yours. If you don't change your mind by Monday, I'll give you a referral for tests and the procedure. All the best." Lola, sobbing, made her way to her room, and there she was seen by her neighbor, the elderly Aunt Jimena. She immediately realized that something very serious had happened to the girl. Silently, she brought her in, sat her at the table, and poured a double dose of sedative. "Lola, don't cry. Drink this and tell me the whole truth about what happened. I'll help as much as I can. I can see you're a good girl." And Lola, unexpectedly even to herself, poured her heart out to the elderly woman. She told her about Oscar, about the pregnancy, and about being fired from work for no reason at all. The pensioner remained silent for a long time and then said, "My dear, let's not be foolish. Don't get involved in sinful deeds. The child has nothing to do with it. And your tormentors will shed all the tears you've shed, mark my words. Forget about that fiancé of yours since his mother is such a snake, she won't let you live peacefully anyway. Think about the child and give birth. I'll help. I live alone anyway, no relatives, no children either. I was a fool just like you once upon a time. We'll manage. I'll ask around among my acquaintances, maybe you can work unofficially as a cleaner for now, and then you'll find something better after giving birth. You're still young." So Lola lived her whole life in that small room with her son. Initially, Aunt Jimena helped her a lot, watching over little Vicente when Lola was on shift. Lola took up various odd jobs to survive, working at a car wash, as a dishwasher, and a part-time cleaner. She struggled with all her might but managed to stand on her own feet and raise her handsome son. She even put him through university, which was very important to her. She wanted her son to have a good profession and not struggle through life like she did. Recently, Vicente met Laura, his fiancée. The girl was quite difficult, coming from a well-off family. Her parents were middle-class businessmen who owned several stalls in the market. Lola had a good relationship with Laura and considered her almost like her own daughter. After all, she vividly remembered the tricks her own prospective mother-in-law played on her in her youth. However, Laura's parents were unbearable. These snobs insisted on a wedding in an upscale restaurant and demanded that half of the banquet be paid for. And her son also pleaded with his mother to attend the wedding. It was very important to him. But where would they get all that money? Nobody said a word about it. It felt like an endless loop. Lola returned home, called Maria, and told her the story of the missing woman at the bank. They should have just approved the loan instead of telling me tales. So, he gave me her address and surname. And what? Does that make me feel any better? But her friend kept nagging. What are you thinking, Lola? Go there tomorrow and find out everything. Who knows? Maybe that woman is related to you, and you didn't even know about it? It's like a movie. How intriguing. Call me afterward and tell me everything. Lola listened to her friend and, after her shift at the car wash, went to the address provided. It was far outside the city. There stood a solid and beautiful mansion, designed in an antique style with coats of arms and heavy oak shutters. The grounds were well maintained, with shrubs and flowers everywhere. Lola rang the doorbell at the gate. An elderly, frail-looking woman of refined appearance appeared at the threshold. She was dressed in a light coat and neat boots, carrying a walking stick. Clearly, she was going for a walk. Lola greeted her. "Good day. My name is Lola Delgado. I'm sorry to bother you, but may I come in? There's something I need to discuss." "Oh, what's happening to you? Are you feeling unwell?" The pensioner stumbled and started collapsing right there on the ground, her eyes rolling back. Lola was deeply alarmed, panicked, and started shouting for help. The homeowner, a 70-year-old man, rushed out upon hearing her cries. He took one look at Lola and began crossing himself too, muttering incomprehensible words. He lifted his wife in his arms and carried her into the house, and Lola timidly followed. The man started wafting smelling salts under his wife's nose. "Celia, wake up. Come on. Don't scare me like that." The elderly woman regained consciousness, looked at Lola again, and burst into tears. "My dear daughter, you've been found. What a joy. My prayers to the Lord have finally been answered. Let me hug you, my dear. Igor, it's our Lola. She's finally found." The man crossed himself once more. "Phew, thank God. For a moment, I thought Noah had come back from the other world. I nearly collapsed right next to you. Come in, my dear, have a seat." Lola blinked, unable to recover from the shock. "I don't understand anything. How am I your daughter? My surname is Delgado. And my mother's name was Irene. She passed away many years ago. I have no other relatives. Please explain everything, for God's sake." Sonora Gallego wiped away her tears and began to tell her story. "Juan and I have been together our whole lives, ever since our student days. We worked tirelessly and started our business from scratch. We began with a small basement workshop where I sewed day and night alongside everyone else. We had no facilities at all. Then we opened a tailoring studio and eventually a full-fledged production and fashion house. The hard 90s arrived, a dreadful time with gangsters and swindlers everywhere. It was during that time that I became pregnant and gave birth to twins, you and Noah. We cherished you both dearly. Look, I'll show you a photo of you and your sister when you were just babies. Look at how adorable and identical you were. But I knew, Lola, that you had a distinct birthmark behind your ear, unlike Noah. You were both a year old when tragedy struck. Our competitors decided to intimidate us and take away all our assets. The business was incredibly profitable, with jeans selling like hotcakes. And we were left with nothing. It was heartbreaking to give up our creation, considering all the effort and hard work we had put into it. And then they kidnapped our daughter, you, Lola. Right in the middle of a walk, two thugs suddenly attacked us. I only managed to grab Noah out of the stroller when they pushed me aside, causing me to hit my head hard on the pavement. The commotion attracted passers-by, but the villains quickly hopped over the fence and escaped in a car. And then they started blackmailing Igor and me, threatening to kill you if we didn't comply. We were terrified, so we went to the police, agreed to all their demands right away. After all, a child's life is priceless. But while the police were preparing the operation to catch the scoundrels, they were killed in a gang shootout, and the case went cold. They never returned our child to us. I cried my eyes out, believing and hoping that one day you would be found, that you were alive. My biggest fear was that those scumbags had simply killed you. The police told me that. There was no chance of finding you alive. But a mother's heart cannot be deceived. I felt that you were alive. Lola was in shock. But what about my mother? I grew up in a family, as far back as I can remember. True, my mother worked as a nanny at the shelter. Could she have adopted me? Sonora Gallego nodded. I think that's exactly what happened. The child was no longer needed by the gangsters, and they probably couldn't bring themselves to kill an innocent child. So they likely left you at the orphanage. And your mother adopted you afterward. Lola still didn't understand. Let's suppose that's true. But the name, Lola? How did she know that's what I was called? I couldn't have said my own name if I was only a year old, right? Senora Gallego chuckled. You and your sister had golden pendants around your necks from birth. Your father gave them to you. They were custom made with a flower and your names, Lola and Noah. We used to laugh about it, saying it was to avoid mixing you up. That's probably why they left your name intact at the orphanage. As for the pendant, who knows, maybe someone on the staff pocketed it. You'll never find out for sure. Oh, my dear daughter. I'm so happy that you found us. It's like a miracle. Lola asked again. So, where is Noah? What happened to her? Where did she disappear? Senora Gallego burst into tears again, sighed, and continued her story. Until she was 16, Noah was a smart and obedient girl, and we couldn't have been happier. She did well in school, loved and respected us. But then something seemed to possess her. She got involved with one boyfriend after another, and such characters they were. She deliberately chose troublemakers. We scolded her, tried to reason with her with kindness, but she wouldn't listen to anything. She struggled in university, barely managed to graduate, and all she had on her mind were parties. She wasn't eager to work either, thinking, what's the point if money comes easy? Her father and I hoped that our daughter would become our assistant, learn the business, and continue our legacy. Especially since she studied design. But then Noah found herself a swindler and a con artist. This Manuel didn't sit well with us from the beginning, a compulsive liar and a sneak. He roamed around our house, asking if our paintings were authentic, inquiring about other antique items. He lied through his teeth, claiming to be wealthy, but we weren't naive. We double-checked everything and found out he was just a gigolo. He sought out wealthy fools and swindled them out of their money. We tried to explain this to our daughter 100 times. But it was in vain. She was stubborn and insisted on loving Manuel, no matter what. And then she ran away with him. And in the process, she took away our grandmother's heirlooms and a significant sum of money. She simply stole from us. At first, her father was furious with her, scolding her, and his heart even started acting up. It was a betrayal, a knife in the back from our own flesh and blood. But then we forgave her. She was still our daughter. We decided that if this was her choice, so be it. And money is something we can earn again. Since then, we hardly communicated. It was as if a wall had grown between us. But 3 years ago, we received a call from the hospital informing us that Noah was in critical condition. We rushed there. It turned out that her unreliable fiancé had squandered half of the money and abandoned our daughter. She was ashamed to come back home. She lived alone in a rented apartment, and then she fell seriously ill and was taken to the hospital. We forgave our daughter, sought the best doctors, surrounded her with warmth and care, but it was all in vain. Her illness had progressed too far, and our little girl faded away like a candle. It's so terrifying when parents have to go through such things. And it's unfair. After our daughter's funeral, my husband and I became completely despondent. The meaning of life disappeared. I often went to church, praying and begging the Lord to somehow find you, Lola. And now, He has heard me. And you've come back. Now, tell us about yourself, dear. Are you married? Do you have children? And how did you find us after all these years? Lola sighed. My life hasn't been a walk in the park either. I had to endure so many trials. My mother passed away early, in my arms. And she never even confessed that I was adopted. But she loved me so sincerely that I couldn't even imagine such a thing. Then I left the city. I had a relationship with a wealthy man. But his future mother-in-law despised me because I was a poor waitress who wasn't a suitable match for her precious son. After the breakup, I found out that I was pregnant. I even considered committing a sin. Thank God for kind people who talked me out of it, who reasoned with me. Then my son, Vincente, was born. It's just the two of us, living together. I worked 3 jobs my whole life. I wash dishes in a cafe, do car washes on weekends for extra money, and even clean yards. All for my son, everything for him. Vincente is in his final year of the economics university. He met a girl, Laura. They are in love, but her future in-laws are difficult people who live a life of luxury. They despise me and don't treat my son well either, saying he's an unpromising match from a poor family. The young couple wanted a modest wedding, but no, the matchmakers insist on a lavish banquet in a restaurant, and everything has already been booked. They demand half the amount for the banquet from me. But all the money I've saved went towards my son's suit and rings. I have nothing left, not even to cry. I have nothing to pay with. So, out of desperation, I went to the bank yesterday, hoping to get a loan. They rejected my request, but at least I found out that I bear a striking resemblance to a woman named Noa Esteban Gallego. They gave me your address. And that's how I found you. Senora Gallego raised her hands and exclaimed, "What a happiness to have a grandson! And a wedding is coming soon. Don't worry, my dear. Now we'll show those matchmakers who's in charge. We'll surprise them so much that they'll be speechless. Right, Igor? Why don't we celebrate our grandson's wedding in style? And when will you introduce him to us? I really want to hug and embrace him." Lola cried tears of joy and couldn't believe that she had found her mother and father. It was unbelievable. She finally embraced her mother and replied, "Why wait? Let's go right now. Vincente will be so surprised. He won't believe it." And the 3 of them gathered and went to Lola's home. Vincente had just returned from school and was having dinner. He was surprised when he saw his mother and 2 elderly people. He jumped up and greeted them, saying, "Mom, do we have guests? Good evening. I'm Vincente. Please come in, I'll quickly organize some coffee. I bought delicious cookies, just in case." Lola took her son's hand and said, "Meet them, son. These are my real parents, your grandparents. Senora Gallego and Senor Esteban. I only found out about it today myself." Vincente stood frozen in place, blinking frequently, and said, "Wow. But you always told me that I only had one grandmother, and she passed away before I was born. Don't we visit her grave? How does this all make sense?" Lola shrugged her shoulders and replied, "It's a long story, son. Your grandma will tell you herself. Meanwhile, I'll quickly set the table. We need to celebrate this." Lola went to the shared kitchen and started preparing the table. When she returned, she couldn't help but smile. It seemed that the younger generation adapts and accepts news faster than older people. Her son sat on the couch, chattering nonstop, showing his album to his grandparents. "Look, this is me at 5 years old. Mom was teaching me how to ride a bicycle. Oh, I fell down so hard. I lost 2 teeth. And this is my graduation photo. And this is Laura, my fiancée. Isn't she beautiful? When I saw her for the first time, I was so nervous, I was even afraid to approach her and introduce myself. I barely gathered the courage. I'll introduce you to her too. She's wonderful, and you'll definitely like her. We're waiting for you at the wedding. Such news, my friends will faint. Mom, I think I resemble Grandpa a bit. Look at my profile. The nose with a little bump and the eyebrows are the same." Then the 4 of them sat down to have dinner. They talked a lot, enjoyed a little red wine. It was such a wonderful and heartfelt gathering. Lola felt as if she had known her mom and dad her whole life. They were her true kindred spirits. Maria, upon hearing such amazing news, jumped up. "Congratulations, my friend. You didn't want to go, and look what happened. This is like a TV series. Now you're the daughter of millionaires. Your matchmakers will be speechless. Tomorrow, we're going dress shopping for you. Now you can let loose and enjoy." Lola asked Vincente not to tell Laura's parents anything for now and only passed on the necessary amount of money for the banquet through her son. Laura's parents grumbled in response. Did they manage to gather the money? They probably borrowed money from all over the world. Her groom's mommy will probably come dressed in a cheap dress from a clearance sale, covered in costume jewelry. What did our Laura find in this pauper? Silly girl. She's ruining her life with her own hands. Meanwhile, Lola and her parents underwent a genetic test, and after 3 days, the results were ready. As expected, their blood relation was confirmed. They then went together to the bank, presented the director with the death certificate of Lola's sister and the inheritance documents. The heirs retrieved the contents of the safe deposit box, which turned out to be the very family heirlooms. Along with that, the banker handed over all the money from the account with interest, which turned out to be a substantial sum. Senora Gallego pondered and said, "Our daughter, Noah, managed to preserve all the family treasures intact, despite the desperate situation. Even when she was terminally ill, she didn't lose hope and didn't touch the precious items. Her wretched husband would have squandered everything, down to the last golden earring. She did everything right. And now let these money and jewels be our gift to you, Lola, and our grandson. You deserve it. I hope it helps you in life. And we'll definitely come to the wedding. We'll see you there." For the first time in her life, Lola allowed herself to get a manicure, hairstyle, and makeup. She longed to feel like a queen, not a cleaner. And so, the day of celebration arrived. The groom and the bride arrived, and the guests were assembled. The matchmakers couldn't hide their glee. Senora Prieto looked like a Christmas tree. The slightly overweight, short woman squeezed herself into an incredibly expensive dress adorned with rhinestones, which only emphasized all the flaws in her figure. And she was covered in jewelry. Rings, bracelets, and necklaces, all massive and outrageously expensive. The whole ensemble looked quite comical. Her husband was just like her, self-important like a peacock, with a huge beer belly. All the guests looked at the elderly, refined couple who sat modestly in the back and didn't attract much attention, yet. The door of the restaurant swung open, and in walked Lola. Everyone gasped, especially Senora Prieto. She couldn't understand what had happened to that worn-out, tired woman in shabby cheap clothes. Before her stood nothing short of a queen. The flowing floor-length dress was incredibly expensive and delightful, a pleasing shade of violet. Elegant stiletto shoes completed the look, making the woman even more slender. She wore minimal jewelry, only diamond earrings from her grandmother's collection and a delicate gold chain with a small pendant that any jeweler would go crazy over. Lola had her hair beautifully highlighted at the hair salon, and her hairstyle took years off her appearance. It was impossible to take one's eyes off her. Lola approached the young couple, embraced them warmly. Her son whispered, "Mom, you're amazing. Beautiful. Mother-in-law will burst with envy." Our heroine approached Senora Prieto, smiled enchantingly, and said, "Good day, nice to see you. Congratulations on our shared celebration of the children's marriage. May they be happy." An entrepreneur, trying to hide her confusion, replied, "You look good. Did you rob a boutique along with a jewelry store? Where did this luxury come from? You and your son live in poverty, like church mice, I swear." Lola didn't even bother to waste time talking to the rude couple. She just smiled enchantingly and walked up to the stage, right to the microphone. All the guests fell silent and stared at her. The woman said, "Dear newlyweds, son, Laura, I sincerely congratulate you on the most important event in life, the day of your marriage. And I want to wish your family strength and unity. I want to say that my life hasn't been easy. I raised my son alone, got him on his feet, and even put him through university. I worked 3 jobs, didn't get enough sleep, and I wasn't ashamed to clean floors and dishes for the sake of my child's happiness. But recently, a grand event happened in my life. I found my real parents. Please applaud. Senora Gallego and Senor Esteban, well-known businessmen in the city, owners of fashionable boutiques, as well as philanthropists and benefactors. They retired long ago due to their age, but their business is thriving. So, overnight, I went from being a Cinderella to a millionaire's daughter. I am infinitely grateful to my parents for helping me pay for this banquet and for giving me a huge sum of money. But I would like to give you, my son, and your young family, this money and the family heirlooms of my grandmother. I want you to buy a separate apartment so that you don't have to endure the insults of some particularly venomous relatives and live under the same roof with them. Remember, my son, no matter how your family life turns out, anything can happen. The most important thing is not money or wealth, but mutual respect, patience, and the ability to forgive for the sake of love. And to you, my son, Grandpa is giving a new car. Here are the keys. I wish you all the best, my children. Sincerely wishing you happiness. The hall erupted in thunderous applause, the music roared, and the celebration began. Everyone discussed the phenomenal news and the generosity of the groom's mother and his relatives. Well, she gave everything to her son, not keeping anything for herself. That's true maternal love. As for Senora Prieto and her husband, everyone forgot about them and just chuckled, fully understanding whom Lola meant when she talked about venomous relatives. Even the merchants fell silent, realizing that they were no match for Lola anymore, rather than the other way around. But after drinking quite a bit, they suddenly decided to mend their relationship and started fawning and groveling before their mother-in-law. Cunning Senora Prieto rambled on incessantly. "Oh, Andrew, your son-in-law is such a good guy. He's smart and athletic, the kind of son-in-law one can only dream of. Our daughter is so lucky." But Lola quickly dampened her enthusiasm. "Have you suddenly fallen ill? Just yesterday, you called me a beggar and my son a pauper, and now you want to be friends? That's how it goes. Let me tell you one thing, I treated Ludmilla like a daughter, and I will continue to do so, no matter what happens. Unlike some people, money is not the most important thing in my life. I also wish for you to learn to see the soul in people first and then measure everything by money. Think about it in your free time." Many who overheard the conversation murmured in approval. That's right. Anything can happen in life. The rich may knock on the poor's door. After such a remark, the saleswoman fell completely silent, and she couldn't be heard. The wedding went splendidly, and everyone danced until they were exhausted. Towards the end of the evening, Andrew specially arranged for a waltz for his grandmother and gently led her in the dance. It was so sweet and touching that Lola even shed a tear. Furthermore, throughout the evening, one of the guests from the bride's side, Nicholas, persistently tried to court Lola. He owned a small flower shop and loved his business wholeheartedly. At first sight, he fell head over heels for Lola, inviting her to slow dances and never taking his admiring eyes off her. Lola found the man very pleasant, but she had grown so accustomed to loneliness that she never entertained the thought of someone being interested in her. As midnight approached, the restaurant emptied, and all the guests dispersed. The newlyweds decided to spend their wedding night in a luxury hotel suite. Lola was still in the restaurant, seeing off the last guests. Strangely, Nicholas didn't leave either. He timidly approached Lola and quietly asked, "Can I accompany you home tonight? I really don't want to part with you, to be honest. And I live alone, a widower for 5 years now. God didn't bless me with children either. Let's take a walk through the city at night, breathe in the fresh air since the weather is wonderful, and then we can call a taxi." Lola was taken aback and was about to cite extreme fatigue, but then she suddenly thought, when was the last time I walked the streets with a man? Or went on a date, for that matter? Right, about 20 years ago. Why should I rush? To my empty little room? Screw it all. I'll agree. She agreed, and it was not in vain. It turned out to be the most wonderful night of her life. She and Nicholas wandered through the illuminated alleyways under the glow of the streetlights. The nocturnal capital enchanted them with its beauty and vibrant lights. The couple chatted, holding hands, and Lola marveled. "Oh, my God! How beautiful it is! And to think that I'm always rushing somewhere, to those darn jobs, caught up in the hustle and bustle, and I never notice any of this. I've lived for my son and never thought about myself." Nicholas draped his jacket over her shoulders and pulled her closer to him. "Maybe it's time for you to live a little for yourself? What do you think? Since my wife's death, it felt like I hadn't really been living, like a frozen fish. But when I saw you today, I was lost. You're so like a star from the sky." He gently kissed her lips, stirring something within her, awakening her dormant femininity that had been asleep for so many years. A surge of electricity ran through Lola, and shivers traveled down her body. They both woke up in her room, on the creaky old couch, in each other's strong embrace. Lola whispered sleepily, "I'm so ashamed. What will you think of me now?" Nicholas smiled and kissed her shoulder tenderly. "I will think that you are now mine, for life and no other way. Does that answer suit you, my queen? I won't allow you to toil away on backbreaking jobs anymore. I may not be an oligarch, but I will earn enough for the two of us to live. I want you to always smile, love, and wait for me, to simply be a woman." Lola blissfully smiled and savored the taste of those words, to be a woman. She had almost forgotten what that meant. She had been running like a workhorse, afraid of falling behind. The woman pressed herself against Nicholas. "And I won't let you go anywhere. I'll feed you fabata and carnitas to your heart's content and give you warmth and tenderness. Is that clear to you?" They laughed for a long time, envisioning their future life together, but both knew they could no longer be without each other. From that morning, a bright and happy streak began in Lola's life. She moved to live with Nicholas in his apartment and started learning how to be simply a woman. She savored every day she lived. There was no longer a need to jump out of bed like a madwoman at 5 in the morning and rush to sweep the courtyards to avoid being seen, followed by endless piles of dishes or laundry. Lola now woke up to the amazing aroma of coffee and the kiss of her beloved. She could afford to luxuriate in a bath with fragrant foam and read a book without any hurry. How touching and pleasant it all was. She delighted in preparing Nicholas's favorite empanada de viento and watched with joy as he devoured them with delight. They talked about how the day went, cuddling together while watching a movie. Both derived indescribable joy and pleasure from these seemingly mundane family moments. Lola blossomed outwardly as well, always wearing a smile and a rosy glow on her cheeks. Her son and daughter-in-law were also doing well. They bought a cozy apartment in a quiet residential area. Laura was finishing her education, and Andre immersed himself in his grandfather's business, putting his education to good use. Lola also didn't forget about her parents. They often visited Noah's grave, spending a long time reminiscing about her, and Lola listened to stories about her sister's life. They frequently had joint picnics in the yard at their parents' place. The men grilled meat on the barbecue and played golf, while the women chatted in the gazebo about various topics of interest to them. There were no scandals, arguments, or jealousy. And if someone unintentionally offended another, they immediately asked for forgiveness, and everyone quickly forgot about the unpleasant moment. After 6 months, Lola became concerned when her menstrual cycle became irregular, so she decided to go to the gynecologist for a checkup. The doctor thought it might be the onset of menopause. To her surprise, while waiting in line to see the doctor, she saw Laura. They embraced and started talking. Laura blushed. "You know, I think I'm pregnant. I've been eating like an elephant and gained 5 kilograms, and I'm constantly sleepy." Lola exclaimed. "Oh my goodness. That's amazing. Finally, I'll get to spoil my grandchildren too. I also have some issues, so I decided to get checked. Will you wait for me? Let's go to a cafe and chat." 30 minutes later, a stunned Lola emerged from the doctor's office. Laura brought her good news. Everything was confirmed. It's going to be a girl. I'm 3 months along. Andre will be thrilled. Distractedly, Lola added, I'm also. Laura laughed. Also what? I don't understand. Lola stared at her with glassy eyes. I'm also pregnant. It's so embarrassing. I'm 42 years old. How am I going to look my son in the eye? And Nicholas? Laura jumped in excitement. Wow. That's awesome. Why are you upset? Many women become mothers at this age, and everything is fine. You love Nicholas, and he loves you, it's evident. How wonderful, now we'll be on the same prenatal care schedule. I can't keep it a secret. I'll burst if I don't tell Andre. Lola absent-mindedly nodded again. It's better if you tell him, I can't find the words. But I need to figure out how to tell Nicholas. Lola was incredibly nervous. She prepared baked fish and apple charlotte, eagerly waiting for her husband to come home from work. Nicholas, as always, kissed his beloved, but immediately noticed that something was off with Lola. He asked sternly, Sweetheart, hello. Have you been crying? I can see it. What happened? Did you go to the doctor? Lola fidgeted with her apron and mumbled, avoiding eye contact. Sit down, Nicholas, let's have dinner. I made your favorite fish with sauce. Nicholas was genuinely concerned. Lola, what did the doctor say? Are you sick? Tell me the truth. I'm not a stranger. Together, we can handle anything. Come on, tell me. And suddenly, the woman burst into tears, sobbing uncontrollably. Oh, Nicholas, I'm pregnant. I don't even understand how it happened. I thought it was menopause, and now? What should we do now? Nicholas couldn't believe what he heard and almost shouted. What should we do? Be happy, of course. I never dared to dream of such happiness. I had given up hope long ago. Unbelievable, our little one will be born soon. Lola cried even louder. That's not all. Laura is pregnant too. I met her at the consultation today. What a disgrace. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law will be walking around with bellies. They'll laugh at us. Nicholas started hugging and kissing Lola. I don't care about anyone else, and you shouldn't either. What does it matter to anyone else? A child is a gift from God. And it's not given without a reason. I'll carry you in my arms, protect you from every little thing, and love our baby more than life itself. Don't be afraid, I'm with you. And as for Andre and Laura, I'm happy for them too. It's time for them to have children. On the weekend, everyone gathered in the yard at Lola's parents' house and announced this wonderful news at the festive table. Sonora Gallego even shed tears and clapped her hands. This is marvelous, what a blessed message. Our small family is experiencing a double blessing. Oh, well done, men. Lola cautiously asked her son. Are you okay with this? Aren't you angry? I feel awkward and embarrassed. After all, I'm already at an age. Andre tenderly embraced his mother. What age? Mommy. You're still amazing. I'm genuinely happy to see you loved and happy, and Nicholas is glowing. On the contrary, it's fantastic. And I won't be as worried for Laura either. She's still young and inexperienced, and you'll teach us all. Everyone raised their glasses and drank, some with juice and some with wine. Then they enjoyed the aromatic barbecue and had a joyful family gathering. 3 generations, 3 families, 3 destinies intertwined into one.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.